with a posture of a person who questions. As we go forward, you need to ask yourself, does this make sense? How about if we use this different approach? And the reason I say this is because I've read a number of books, and one among those I have read recently was saying that more often than not, the things we think we know today, we realize in just a year or two that we were wrong, because more information comes up over time. And we have to either change course or abandon the things that we were doing, because it turns out that we are engaging in the wrong courses of action. And that's why it is very important that throughout this session, let us be partners in the exploration of this, art of decision making, science of decision making. It's both an art and a science. We'll talk about pragmatism. And as I hoist my material, I'd like to just say that I read in a book, I can't recall the author, and the author said that what you are today, whatever it is that you are, I don't know what you are, you need to define for yourself whom you think you are. It's the sum total of your decisions. It is the sum total of your past decisions. So sit down, ask yourself, in terms of your purpose in life, in terms of the milestones that you set out to achieve in blocks of 2, 3, 5 years, in terms of the targets and the milestones you've set out to achieve every single year, the progress you're making over those short periods, over the medium term and over the long term, is really an exemplification of what you are today. Because as I have said, what you are today and what you'll be in 5 years from now will be a reflection of the sum total of your past decisions. And that's why that type of thinking makes this discussion for today extremely critical at where we're headed. So let me just say that when you look at this topic, decision making and problem solving, the key steps through an approach we're calling the integrated thinking approach. Actually, we are not going to give you a different approach to decision making. So please don't wait for a list. It's not there. And the other thing we're going to do in helping you to assess how you make decisions, whether you're making decisions for your corporation, whether you're making decisions for your own personal, you need to ask yourself, is this the right way to make decisions? Is it okay to use the same approach for all decisions? Should we have a different approach for certain decisions? And all of these things are going to come up in the subsequent slides that I'm going to present to you. So as I go forward, I know that I may be wrong, yes, but I know all of you have grappled with different decisions at a personal level, as corporation, and happy with the decisions that your institution took, and you sat back and say that they are making a mistake. Or rather, the reason why, for instance, some people play or rather become a success in life to a different extent, the reason why some countries progress faster than others, we understand the Singaporeans, they took our session of paper in Kenya, used it. And you know, right now, the GDP per capita in Kenya is 1,800 US. Per capita GDP is 65,000 US dollars. That difference is a function of the choices that each of these countries has taken. That thinking happens not just at your level as the individual. After all, countries, institutions, corporations, organizations are led by people, you people seated here today. And that's why whatever we are discussing, the principles for good decision making, you should apply those principles, I would say, in an integrated way throughout engagements with your family, with your private business, with your employer, and even in your society if you have a leadership position. So let's talk about integrated learning and integrated decision making. You can imagine you jumped into a matatu this morning, right? Because the matatu passed near your home. And then you sat next to a lady who was talking to her friend and telling a story about how her sister took care others when there's a passed on way back. This is just an example, it's nothing real. And that person you're sitting next to is talking about how her sister assumed the responsibility to raise their third-born children until they completed university, and the kids are very successful. So you listen to that story and you are like, okay, how can somebody just decide to take care of the kids of their late sibling until they complete university, they get a job, and now they are independent on their own. And then you're alight in town, and because getting to your place of work is a bit tricky, you call for Bolt or Uber for that matter, and you sit in that Uber, and while seated, the taxi driver starts telling you some ideas about how people are making money during the COVID pandemic, that some people are actually, even for him, his wife is preparing food, and they're actually delivering that food to their neighbors, to the people in the estate. Some people in the offices are ordering, and he goes on to tell you that they're actually making money that they were not even making before. And they are deciding to take that forward into a family business. So you carry on and you alight. As you alight, just before you alight, you receive a subtext in the group talking about the 10 principles of good leadership. And they talk about good leaders should have humility. Good leaders should take responsibility rather than making themselves the only problem solver in the house. And that was subtext lists about 10 good principles of becoming a good leader. Then you arrive at the office and you have some decisions to make about advising your staff. There are some staff who actually you are following, or some you are sending home because COVID-19 has hurt the cash flows of your organization. And you need to communicate the decision to this staff that they will be going home, but also you want to do it in a way that ensures that they are supported so that they can move into that unemployment life, still feeling that their employer cares. Now, in the decision to follow staff has already been taken, but you have a decision here on how to communicate to these staff and a decision to make on how to support them. Now, listening to the story you had in the matatu and the story you had in the taxi and the WhatsApp text you received, all of those are sources of learning that most of us ignore. So you sit down, you forgot everything that you've had, and you don't even have an opportunity to learn lessons about humility and caring for others from the sister who took care and raised the kids of their sibling. You have forgotten about the story of business and how to diversify your revenue base, the story from the taxi driver. You have forgotten about the 10 points in the WhatsApp group because you think maybe problems should be solved in silos. The blend of the right insights to solve problems are derived from combining the exposures to learning that you go through every day. I've just described 3 scenarios where you got insights about how people are doing things differently. And my advice to you is that you need to use an integrated approach and ask yourself, what did I learn from the lady who sat next to me in the matatu? What have I learned from the taxi driver? What have I learned from the WhatsApp text that I just read? And if I blend these lessons, what can I come out with that supports how I decide how I carry out my day? Decisions such as being kind to those people who are being followed and recommending to management how to support them, including even deciding that the company will finance training Sorry, Sam, can you hear me? No, I'm someone.
Yes, Evans, I can hear you. You are very clear.
Yeah, I think there was some echo, so I got confused. So what I'm describing here is what we call integrated learning and integrated thinking. Now, I read a book, those of you who have read books by Paulo Coelho. Paulo Coelho is an outstanding author from Brazil. Some of you have read The Alchemist. He has written so many books, I cannot finish listing them. But there's one particular book that he wrote called The Zahir. Zahir is spelled Z-A-H-I-R. And in the Zahir, Paulo says that the solutions, the ideas, the innovations, the tips that we need to create opportunities that will transform our lives happen to us every day, every hour. But the problem is we don't pay sufficient attention to seize those moments and pick those lessons and run with them and transform our lives. When the day started today, you people here, you wonderful delegates, there are situations you've encountered today up to this hour that could have meaningful impact in your lives, but you may have paid zero attention to those situations. And Paulo says we need to be very alert and pay attention to those moments, integrate those moments, blend those ideas, and come out with novel ideas and novel decisions that shape a unique way of approaching our lives and approaching how we add value to society and how we add value to our organizations. Now, the art and science of integrated learning and integrated decision making requires that you practice it. You cannot just listen to it in this webinar and then that's the end. You have to practice it starting this afternoon after this webinar. Pay attention deliberately. Even if your neighbor abuses you, ask yourself, what is the lesson that I'm picking from this moment? So let's move on and look at some of the types of decisions that we make. And I want us to take some lessons from Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world. Jeff Bezos is the CEO of a company in the US. Which company is Jeff Bezos leading? Anyone here except Simon Mwachi? Can you tell me if you know which company he leads?
Amazon.
Thank you so much. What's your name?
Francis.
Oh, FCP Francis Kivuli. Thank you so much. So this guy is the richest man, but there's another guy who is running behind him. I can tell you the guy chasing him is called Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a South African who emigrated to Canada, and after his education to Canada, he moved into the US, and he set up a green energy company called Tesla, and the people laughed at him. He went and listed Tesla, and the analysts, finance analysts on Wall Street and the New York Stock Exchange ridiculed him. The General Motors ridiculed him. His company is 15 times bigger than General Motors right now, and I don't know what to say about Tesla. So when people ridicule your decisions, ridicule your ideas, treat them with the contempt that deserves. Because if somebody's vision is at this level and your vision is at this level, the fact that they lack the ability to see what you are seeing at this level should not make you come down to the level of seeing the vision they are seeing. That's how I approach life. So this guy, Jeff, he has some ideas on decision making. I want this session to be practical. We don't have time for academic analysis of decision making, because I want, after this session, you have to start practicing what we are discussing today. And before I talk about decision making by Jeff Bezos, I want to say that between March 2020 and September 2020, Jeff Bezos' net worth, that means his assets minus his total liabilities, grew by 120 billion US dollars in 6 months. And Kenya, since independence, we have been around for over 55 years. I don't know how many years, 57. For 57 years, and we are 50 million people, we have never produced a GDP beyond 105 billion US dollars. And this guy was able to do that in 6 months. I want to pause so you can digest that. I want you to digest that. And right now, as we speak, this year, he has generated in excess of 200 billion US dollars in net worth. That is more than twice the Kenyan GDP that we have been building for over 57 years. And he has done that in 9 months. That's a challenge to you. Then the question is, how does he decide? When he makes his decisions for business, how does he approach it? So let's get to the slide. There are type 1 and type 2 decisions. Now, let me just go through this. Type 1 decisions are not reversible. And you have to be very careful when making type 1 decisions. Let's pause there for a moment. I'll give you examples of type 1 decisions. It is very expensive to walk away. It's painful to say we are going back. An example would be if your organization is going to purchase an ERP, an ICT software, corporate-wide, for integrating your finance, accounting, procurement, HR, all of those things. And your organization commits $1 billion shillings to install that software. Then down the road, you realize you picked the wrong software. The supporting company has no ability to provide after sales are stuck. That's a very dangerous decision. You will regret for the rest of your life why you committed your organization to something like that. Let me give you another example of type 1 decision so that you take an opportunity to see what you need to do when you are dealing with type 1 decisions. The other example is in your personal life. I'll pick one example when you are deciding on a life partner. Yeah? When you're deciding on your life partner, take your time, evaluate. That is a type 1 decision. Don't behave like those people we see in movies who meet on Monday and on Wednesday they are getting married. They have even invited a pastor and they're exchanging rings after 3 days. Marriage, partner, is a serious decision. Take your time. Don't go in it through emotions, because you can be in love with somebody that you are, in terms of character, incompatible. So your heart is bleeding for him or her, but in terms of compatibility, zero. So that's when you hear people have committed suicide, because it doesn't work. That's why you need to take time. And I'm grateful to my dad, because he used to tell me and my other brothers that don't rush to marry. Take your entire time. We will never ask you to marry. Take your time. I didn't know he knew it's a type 1 decision, but I discovered later that was a type 1 decision. Now, I'm coming to type 2 decisions. Let me say something about type 1 decision. When you're taking type 1 decisions, don't rely on emotions. You can use emotions in type 2 decisions. Rely on logic, assess the impact, assess the consequences, assess the risks. Ask yourself, will this work under the following scenarios? Try to do background checks. Check with referees. Take time to understand that individual. There are people you meet and they look like angels, but after just 1 month, you say, hey, this was the devil incarnate, because of how they are cruel or treating people. Type 1 decisions, buying your ERP, take your time. Don't rush, because this is a difficult decision to walk away from. Let's go to type 2 decisions. These are like walking through the door and back. And this type of decisions are usually like in your organization, you are saying, all right, why can't we change the processes for ordering software or for ordering stationery so that we only order stationery when we need it? So instead of holding foolscaps in our store, can we now just do just-in-time systems where when we need printing paper, we call the guy who is supplying and he brings the printing paper? Now, type 2 decisions, you can reverse them at any time. It's like telling guys, why can't we try? Let me give you an example at Capable. At Capable, we decided one day that because we run our trainings for 5 days, let us change to 6 days, right? And we see what happens, so that we use Saturday for practical work. Because people will come to us and say, all right, we've learned these things. Now show us practically how to implement in our organization. So we included Saturdays so that we can do the actual practicals. And the people even come with their data from their company and say, we've been trying to crunch this data to analyze it. It's giving us problems. So we picked Saturday to do that. So some of our staff say, no, it can't be 6 days, or whatever, all that. Then even some customers were against it. And we say, no, let's just go ahead and do it because we've never done it. We don't even know what will happen. So anyone telling you about consequences of something that they have never experimented with, then that person might actually be lying to you. So we went ahead with the 6 days because we knew if it doesn't work, one day we can announce we are reversing this decision. It didn't even need us to take 3 days to take the decision. We took the decision, customers liked it, they liked the practical classes on Saturday, and we are running with it because it's working. Now here is the problem. Before I go to the problem, let me give you an example of type 2 decision. And this is common among ladies. Ladies like to go to the supermarket and say that I like that cake, it looks nice. I need to try it. Because of the emotional attachment, to the cake, it looks very well packaged. Or this is a new chocolate, let's try this one. And if you shop with a lady, they normally buy on instinct, right? Because they want to try new things. Men are a bit rigid when it comes to such situations. So ladies like to experiment, and mostly it's driven by visuals and emotion. Those are type 2 decisions. You need to take as many of those on things that you can reverse. Because when you get home with the cake, you can say, I didn't like it. So next time, let's continue buying what we were buying before. Because that was a type 2 decision. You don't need to decide that, I'm going to buy this cake or let me try it based on. So here is the problem. The problem is that we confuse type 1 and type 2 decisions. Like staff are coming to you with a type 2 decision. They are saying, why can't we change how we do our graphics and visuals for the material we are using for digital marketing so that we can expand the target audience? And you are saying, no. First of all, that's not how we do it. But in any case, we need to wait for the board meeting. It is coming up in about 2 to 3 months so that we can table to the board so that the board can approve. I mean, when you do that, you are blocking innovation. Type 2 decisions are innovation-driven, decision-making scenarios. If you are not allowing people or even yourself to take type 2 decisions where type 2 decisions are applicable, innovation, experimentation, change, you're going to make it. If we have a KPLC staff in this training, sorry for this example, but a lot of people, including my personal friends, have now installed the solar grids. They are no longer paying money to KPLC. I don't know why they're doing that, but that's a function of innovation and responding to customer service. But let me come back here and say, don't confuse type 1 and type 2 decisions. If you want to experiment with a new idea, don't wait a whole year as it were a type 1 decision. Decide quickly, test it, experiment fast, fail fast, learn fast, change fast, improve fast, get ahead of competition fast. That's how you do it. Not every decision is a type 1 decision. The reason why big organizations are collapsing is because they have decided that all decisions are type 1 decisions. So that we have a due process, this will take about 6 months. And yet this is a decision that can be taken between the senior managers and the CEO within 1 day. Please take note of the distinction between the two. So Bezos says the problem comes from confusing the two. And as organizations get larger, there seems to be a tendency to use the heavy-weighted type 1 decision-making process on most decisions, including many type 2 decisions. What is the end result? Slowness, unthoughtful risk aversion, failure to experiment sufficiently. You need to be experimenting sufficiently in the radical and aggressively disruptive world we are in today. And consequently, the organization will suffer from diminished invention, And the diminished invention is the biggest catalyst for extinction. That's how institutions become extinct. Even you individually, you'll be extinct if you diminish your capacity to invent. Then we need to figure out how to fight the tendency to want to turn every decision into a type 1 decision. I hope, Simon, you can hear me.
Can hear you, Evans.
Thank you very much. So I want us to move on, and I'll give you an opportunity down the road for you to engage me so that we can address any concerns or issues you have faced. So still talking about type 1 and type 2 decision, according to the guidance from Jeff. Jeff has given us the distinction as shown in the first slide. So we need to desist from the habit of thinking that one size fits all, where we think every decision is a type 1 decision. And sometimes we make the mistake, there's another mistake of taking type 1 decisions lightly. Remember when I told you when you are taking a big capital investment decision, you know, in Kenya, we have those things we call white elephants, those projects that consumed billions, but they didn't go anywhere. At a personal level, you made blunders by taking lightly type 1 decisions of deciding this lady will be my spouse, this gentleman will be my spouse. It becomes very costly down the road. So companies that habitually use the lightweight type 2 decision making process, type 1 decisions, go extinct before they get large. If you see an SME that is decision approach, sorry, to make type of. So as we move forward, as a person, as an institution, you need to consider your vision as a person. I don't know how many here have a vision. You don't have to have a written vision. It can be lodged somewhere in your head. You need to consider your vision. The vision is your dream, what you want to be in the next 5-10 years. What is it you want to be? I like to plan my life in blocks of 5 years. And yesterday I was telling some of my delegates that if a year passes and I realize there's nothing I did that made my heart skip a bit, then I'm very worried, because I like to do things that scare me a bit. Because if it didn't scare you a bit, then you are playing safe. You are deciding to play in the average lane. So what is your vision? What is that dream you're achieving? How scary is it? But of course, it has to be achievable, because most of these things are achievable. What is your mission as a person? A mission is the roadmap. What do you do every day to get to your dream? And what goals have you set? What do you want to improve? You want to improve your analytic skills. Your goal is to learn a second language. Your goal is to increase and diversify your income. Goals are general objectives that are not as specific as objectives. So the difference between a goal and an objective is that a goal is general. So you say, I want to improve my income. I want to diversify my income. I want to learn a new skill. I want to improve my physical fitness, right? But objectives are smart. They are specific. They are measurable. They are attainable. They are relevant and realistic. And then they are time-bound. So as a person, do you have any goals? And are there any objectives tied to those goals? And often in Kenya, we have something called New Year objectives, or rather resolutions. And right now, if you ask most people in this session what their New Year resolution was, there's none. Actually, people don't remember. But I want to dare you, if you are here and you can remember your New Year objectives or resolutions, just raise your hand in the next 20 seconds, and we'll give you a chance to share with us. Anyone? All right, let's move. You'll share with us at the end, because I want us to cover much of this content before this session ends. So strategic decisions that you make. We've talked about one way of making decisions. We just looked at type 1 and type 2 decision-making approach. Strategic decisions. Remember, the meaning of the word strategy is doing things differently and better than your competitors. And there are many ways to approach strategy. You can always, approach strategy by, first of all, paying very, I would call, a lesser focus on your customers, listening keenly to them. When your customers ask you for clouds, give them the stars. And they'll tell you, this is too sweet. You bring it down a bit. When your customers tell you the pains they are going through, right? Go and craft a solution that you can't even find in the market, but one that works, and make them feel, wow, this was built for us, right? That is strategy. You're delivering for them better than anyone else. Strategy means also dealing with your competition. You need to use curveball strategies. Have you seen in football, when those strikers hit the ball as if it's going out and the goalkeeper stands there and the ball bends into the corner and it's a goal? You can fool your competition that you're going in this direction, but essentially you're headed in the opposite direction. You need all those strategies. That is called strategic decision making. And you need to, at this point, remember I said we need to use integrated learning, integrated decision making. Everything we are talking about here, I want you to integrate. Don't package your knowledge in silos, integrate it. So your vision, your mission being the roadmap to achieving the vision, the goals, the things stated generally that you want to achieve every year, every 2 years, and the objectives, which are very specific, that tells you even the time when you want to achieve something, the magnitude of that thing that you're achieving, if it is completing your CPA, your MBA, name it, or learning a new language, they help you to stay true to the purpose of why you or your organization exists. Now, while goals and objectives of an organization may change over time, the vision and mission statements are lasting reminders of what your organization stands for, what it inspires to be, or rather aspires to be, and what it intends, or what it intends to do. Now, decisions that you make should always resonate with your vision as a person or as an organization, with your mission, your goals and objectives. Now, before I move forward, I want to remind you that you can also decide to do nothing about your life. You can just sit there and let fate consume you. Because, I believe that people create their fate. When people tell you you're lucky, it is because you created your luck. For people to say, we want to work with you, Whitney, the lady, a brilliant lady in this group called Whitney, it's because they've spotted your talent, because you've been working hard every day. But decision to do nothing about your life is also a decision. It is a decision not to progress. It's a decision not to prosper. It's to fail. Whatever you do is a decision. That's why my first statement at the start of this training was, right now, what you are today, what you'll be in 10 years, what you will be in 15 years will be the sum total of your past decisions. So I'll move to the next. I'll move to the next slide. I'm trying to click here, but it's behaving as if it doesn't want to move. It will move eventually. So try to do a bit of SWOT analysis. You realize that is a document about strategy. You need strategy at your personal level when you're making decisions, and you need strategy as an organization. And I said earlier, organizations are led by people, and the most strategic people in charge of leading institutions always come out at the top in terms of corporate results, because strategically they have, I would say, an advantage in how they make decisions. Now, what you have come out, you need to start there. I always tell people, when you're making decisions, start by leveraging your leverage. If you have a leverage, you're talented in data analytics, you're talented in customer service, you're talented in accounting and reporting, you are talented in the arts, right? You're a good sketcher and all that. you are talented in sports. Look at your strengths, because your strengths are your leverage. Every day, ask yourself, how am I leveraging my leverage? Yeah, it's not just leveraging your strengths. You need to leverage the leverage. And when you assess your strengths, also ask yourself, so what are some of my weaknesses? What can I change? And weaknesses sometimes are a reflection of the difference between discipline and motivation. When you make decisions, the function of procrastination or the function of not acting on good decisions is founded on people who either have discipline or not. You make decisions because you are motivated, but after the motivation fades, the only thing that will take you to the end is discipline. That's why we always say, before you change action that was taken, archives and look at the 10 bullet points that justify that decision should be taken, and why those 10 bullet points are no longer relevant. Because some people change decisions because they suffer from what we call the shiny ball syndrome. Instead of having the discipline to implement the decision they've taken, they want to go with the most fashionable thing in the market, the shiny ball syndrome. So they keep skipping every 2 months from a good decision to the next one. And after 5 years, they suffer from what we call the rolling stone that never gathers any moss, right? Do your weakness analysis, then look at your environment and look for the opportunities available. Now, when you're analyzing opportunities, use the lessons from Paulo Coelho. I described what Paulo said in the Zahir, where he says those opportunities, they come before our eyes every day. But when we ask people whether they can see any opportunities, the constant answer is there are no opportunities. Well, that will be, to me, as truthful as they can be. But for me, in reality, there are so many problems out there that need to be resolved or solved, and the solutions need to be monetized, and you charge a fee for those solutions, and you use the income to scale the solution so that more people can benefit from those solutions. The opportunities are there. That's my challenge to you. Then take into account the threats. What can make it when you are deciding to go in such action? Okay? So think about the SWOT analysis. And if you're relying on data to take a decision, always double check your data, okay? And right now we are in the age where at your level as an individual, as an organization, there's something we call data analytics. A lot of organizations have got heaps of data that, first of all, they're not even aware they have. But those that are aware they have that data, they don't know what to do with it. So you need to organize your data. Organize it. Turn your data into information that could be used to generate reports, all kinds of reports. Analyze those reports, build ratios, build trends, right? Show patterns, build scenarios, integrated scenarios and otherwise, using the available analysis tools. After you complete analysis, derive insights. You'll derive insights, and those insights are what are going to shape your far-sighted strategy. So people may laugh at what you're doing today, but in 2 years, their business will close down, and they'll come and ask you, what did you do differently? It's because that you are more you're more visionary, and you end up with smart decisions, right? So this is very serious. If you are a marketer and you are here, if you're an accountant, if you're a finance person, you need to start pivoting towards data analytics, because that's the future. Automation, artificial intelligence is taking over everything. Right now, if I buy a book or a phone from Jumuia or Amazon, they don't need an accountant to do double entry after I swipe the card to pay. The revenue is booked, double entry is done in the relevant account, bank is debited, sorry. Their bank is debited because it's an asset. The income is credited automatically. If there's money they are paying one of their vendors, their P&L is also debited straight away, and their cash is credited automatically to show outflow to the vendor, and they don't need any accountant to intervene. Think ICT, let's think analysis, let's think far-sighted strategy, let us think smart decision taking. Data helps you make better decisions. Always double check your data, because if you have the wrong data, again, you end up with the wrong conclusions. You end up with the wrong decisions. So double check your data for consistency and to eliminate loopholes and errors. Bad data equals wrong decisions. When you are taking decisions, always check for human red flags. As human beings, we may have some emotional attachment to the decisions that we are taking. Human red flags mean you could be distracted by your ego. There's a shortage of people without ego, too much ego in Kenya. We have that shortage. Those of you who have read the book by Jim Collins, From Good to Great, it is difficult to pin down a Kenyan that you would say is a level 5 leader. If you have an example of a Kenyan who is a level 5 leader, please tell me in this session who that person is, because I've not come across one. Because level 4 leaders, most of them are very successful. They've led successful enterprises, but they lack the humility to balance the paradoxical combination of professional humility and, professional will and competence combined with personal humility. Personal humility is not very common. In fact, the more people rise and become successful, the more their ego stands in their way. And excessive emotional investments. You've come across people who start a product and they really love it. Customers don't want that product. No revenue is being generated. It is not growing. It is stagnated, but they're emotionally attached. They'll defend it and it will keep consuming resources instead of suspending that particular product, service, or whatever it is. So be aware of emotional investments. You need to take a decision to recruit. You have a good candidate who has passed the interview, but there's another candidate there who looks very nice to you, and you think your chemistry and that person aligns, and emotionally you decide that's the person who will work for your company. That person comes in and they fail to perform, and in just a year or two, your company is crushed by the competition because you're taking decisions based on emotion. But there are some decisions you can use emotion. Type 2 decisions, you can take them using emotion. Recruiting people who will help your company to succeed, please use the type 1 decision approach, because that's a very sensitive area. In strategic planning decisions process, you should remember that even with the right figures, you and other members are prone to making subjective decisions or suggestions that are based on how the outcome will benefit your position and your interests. Please don't shortchange your institution by prioritizing your self-interest over the overall good and long-term success of your organization. Remember that the choices that you make will be for the ultimate good of your corporation. A great litmus test is to check whether or not the step that you are about to take will lead you closer to fulfilling your vision, your mission, your goals and objectives as an institution as well as an individual. Now, never hesitate to speak to experts. Talk to people who've done it. If you know somebody that you can bounce off your decision, your ideas, what you're thinking, do it. Do it. You'll be shocked. The amount of insights people have. If you know me, you are here, bounce off your idea to me. I might even give you additional ideas to consider. Because at Capable, we are generous with ideas. We have no problem with sharing ideas. And we are happy to always be the ones innovating so that our approach in delivering service to customers is superior. So get all the help you can need from friends, from experts when you are taking a decision. Ask them, what's your advice? What do you think you would do if you are in this situation? Seeking advice from experienced experts and credible third-party opinion to assess decisions is the ingredient that has been used by successful leaders. You need to have the humility I was talking about level 5 leaders, the humility and the willingness to listen to alternative opinions. There are people, decision makers, who tell others that you know, my decisions are final. You guys are here to be seen, not to be heard. Open up to suggestions. That's how you improve your decisions. It doesn't mean you will take those suggestions, but they can actually fertilize and improve the decision that you are making so that you are more successful. Then choose advisors with diverse client base and expertise on the matter. So when you're looking for experts, go for the guys you feel are the relevant crop of guys that have had, you know, rich experience. Don't ignore young guys. Young guys understand the future really well than us, the ones who are a bit older. Also ask some sharp young people. You saw in the nation over the weekend, the government of Kenya recruited some 20-year-olds who have innovated lethal military weapons that are based on technology. Whoever went for the idea of involving the young guys in building weapons for the Kenyan government, that person is a genius. Also, don't be afraid to speak to the young guys who have left campus. They have some very interesting ways of looking at things. Avoid mistakes. There's a difference between mistakes and failure. Mistakes are when you are given a due process that for us to take this approach or for us to implement this process. So I'll give an example, how you respond to your customers. You say that to respond to a customer, try to learn about what the customer normally buys or check the database, what they've been asking for, what did they tell us last time, and then prepare a response, an email, check it with the quality assurance. Some organizations have got a quality assurance department that checks everything that goes out, because external communication is a sensitive matter for many organizations, including CAPA bill. And then your checklist includes that after you get clearance, then dispatch, you know, the mail, because the people checking for you are also required to be fast so that you don't delay your customers. Mistakes are when you ignore that due process, because it can be very costly. We've had the experience at CAPA bill where we made mistakes. We have a due process that has 5 steps to follow when holding a webinar like this one, and we skipped just 1 step, and a blunder happened. And customers even called us to say what happened. We looked back and we are like, yeah, we made a mistake, right? We made a mistake because we didn't even check this speaker who was training. We didn't test them through the Zoom pre-training session, and this has cost us. So avoid mistakes. Mistakes are bad. Try to avoid mistakes, learn from them. But there's something called failure. Failure should be encouraged. The difference between mistakes and failure is that people who fail are people who experiment with novel ideas, right? There are people who say, for instance, we have been delivering training face-to-face in Mombasa, but the approach needs to include the following elements. Can we try? And the customers are like, no, we don't like it. If such a person fails, hold a party for them because they tried something different. Failure means some students at University of Nairobi Medicine School trying to come up with a COVID-19 vaccine and it fails to work. Hold a party for them, give a check to each one of them for failing, because they'll go back on the drawing board and correct the elements that made them to fail. There's a lot of learning in doing things like that. A survey was done that showed that the most learning is done through assigning people new unique projects, which they run, and the 70% of the learning comes from there. So let's encourage failure, but let's discourage mistakes, because mistakes is a function of carelessness and failure to pay attention to detail. So please understand, mistakes are not the same as failure. Elon Musk, when he was trying to launch his satellites in space for the first time, about 2 or 3 of the first attempts failed. But right now, as we speak, he's the #1 expert in the world on launching satellites into space and even sending people into space. Edison failed almost 10,000 times when he was trying to discover the bulb. He was failing and learning from failure. But eventually we got the bulb and we love it. All of us scream when there's a blackout at night because this guy did something that's a breakthrough. So please understand the difference between mistakes and failure. The decision-making process should be as in-depth and as infallible as possible. Try to use that second last bullet in light of type 1 and type 2 decision. In-depth means you are easily able to distinguish that this is a type 2 decision. Therefore, let us not waste a lot of time on this decision. This is a type 1 decision. Let's do an in-depth due process so that we avoid, making errors that will cost the organization or that will cost us personally. Focus on taking decisions that ensure you take the right directions towards the path to success. So try to harness different decision-making frameworks when you're doing your strategy, okay? The global position satellite, the GPS that Google uses, it can give you different routes and options. So in deciding in your organization, personally, you can brainstorm. You can have a team of guys brainstorming, and you'll be surprised. If you form small groups of 3 to 4 guys to brainstorm on ideas, you'll be very shocked by what you will hear. But also, you have to be a leader who accepts good ideas. Don't feel bad that ideas didn't come from you. There are people who feel very bad that good ideas came from other people and not them. That is a disease. It's like a cancer. You need to kill it. The road to success is discovering the guy has given, running with it, implementing, and getting ahead of competition if there's anything like that. Analyze of alternatives, advertise in the nation. Tell people you have looked at digital marketing and you are seeing the following pros and cons. Tell people you have looked at having an agent, doing this work of, brand visibility for you. These are the pros and cons, right? Tell people you have looked at, not going the way of agency. You have looked at doing billboards on the highways. These are the pros and cons. Having looked at all those alternatives, right? The alternative of advertising in the Nation Media Group comes out strong for the following reasons. When people come and tell you we've decided as follows, ask them, what are the 2 or 3 other alternatives you have dropped in arriving at this decision? Why are those other 2 or 3 alternatives inferior to this decision you have taken? Ask that simple question. You can actually form a habit. When people tell you this is what we have decided, ask them, so what alternatives did you drop? Give me 2 or 3 alternatives you considered and dropped. Just ask that simple question. You'll be surprised because you'll find that no alternatives were considered. So how did you decide if you didn't consider any alternatives? It's good to rank. That's what I just did in looking at pros and cons. Eventually you do ranking. You can also do weighting. You can have a portfolio or what I would call a blend, or you could have a bundled solution where you say, yes, we'll do marketing, but we'll have 20% of the time we'll advertise. We'll commit 50% to digital marketing, and then we'll commit the remaining percentage to organic tweeting by our staff. You can do weighting so that our solution is a hybrid solution, but you have weighted different elements in that decision. Okay, so always rank your choices and decisions, and avoid being short-sighted. Avoid continuing a project merely because you started it. The people who start a project and they say that I'm the one who decided, this is my idea, so it must go on. I mean, guys, we are in a dangerous era. We are in a dangerous era where if you're not agile and flexible, take it from me, you're going to become history. You'll even be forgotten. You'll be extinct. Don't be afraid of the unknown. Gary Hamel is one of the most influential thought leaders and writers on leadership. He has written radical books on innovation and the future of management. And in Bullet C, Gary Hamel says, number 1, we know the future will come with or without us. If all of us here perish today, the future will still come. If we will be there, it will still come. Point number 2, Gary Hamel says, is that we don't know what the future will look like. Point number 3, he says, if we don't know, are we going to sit and wait for that unknown to come, or we will participate in creating the future? So in this training, are there people who want to participate in creating the future? so that other people who sit and wait can come and consume it. Where do you want to be? Do you want to sit and wait for it, or you want to participate in creating it so that others can consume what you create? I leave that to you. Don't rest on your laurels, take decisions that shape your future. We need to avoid intuiting that the future follows a straight line. It doesn't. The things you're doing today may be totally irrelevant next week. And some people, it takes time to realize. Remember the story of the frog, the water was warming and it sat down at the bottom. The temperature got so hot, it died because it never moved. Or the people who keep taking the horse to the doctor to treat it so that it can win races, when in essence, they should be selling that horse and buying a young, new, energetic horse to win races. All right? Always think and enter your strategic planning and budgeting sessions with an open mind. Have clear communications and have, underline this, a collaborative outlook. Always quantify your decision-making approach. This thing of guts are good. There are some guys who have good guts because of experience, but try to limit the reliance on gut, right? Start your strategic decision planning initiatives with a quantified approach that's easier to translate into data-driven decision-making tools, okay? Always try to conduct a cost-benefit analysis of your decision. What is the cost? What is the benefit? Don't take decisions that have potential to close your organization because of excessive costs vis-a-vis the benefit. Do probability analysis of the success, but that should not stop you from risking. The point of taking risks and doing probability of success is like you see a snake that is in a ball of gold. You're afraid to take the gold because it will bite you and you'll die. Choices. You can spray there that repels snakes and it will run away and you'll come and collect your gold. You can hire a professional snake catcher, pay him a small fee. He catches the snake and you have your gold. You can buy impermeable gloves, you can't pick your gold. That is how you take risks. You manage them. You mitigate the downside, right? Think about resource constraints with the decisions you take. It's good to be very pragmatic. Think about how your decision will be implemented. Don't just go into things. Think about time horizon analysis. How long are we in this? How can we scale this over the next few years? How do we innovate on this idea? People always say that, you know, we need to think about what will change in 5 to 10 years. No, there's more to that. You need to spend more time thinking about what will not change, what people will need for the next 100 years, and you innovate around what people will need for 100 years, okay? Look at how other decisions, or rather other businesses are making decisions, okay? Prove projects that aren't productive. Don't say that this is my project, you are so emotional, you don't want to let it go, because when things are not working, it is always time to change. Then finally, when you are decision making, let's always use an integrated thinking approach. We have borrowed this diagram from the integrated reporting framework, right? Some of you may have come across it. And in your organization, even as an individual, you have all of these things here. The natural capital they invest, manufactured capital. If you're selling bread, sodas, that's your manufactured capital. Intellectual capital are the ideas you come up with. The government of Kenya is passing a law of parliament to protect your ideas, what they call intellectual property rights, because intellectual property rights is capital for business success. There's human capital, now you, the person. For you to succeed, for your organization to succeed, for your business to succeed, you need to have the right people on your team, because the right people are assets. The wrong people on your team are liabilities. So you need to think about how well the people who work for you fit in your organization and your culture. Then the social and relationship capital. Wherever you are, ask yourself, the people you're talking to, how can you use those networks to sell your ideas, to get new ideas, to promote your business? Because these people you're socializing with are your stakeholders. and they can link you to the market and link you to opportunities that will help you to succeed as a person and help your organization to succeed. Actually, laws such as the PFM Act require that organizations should have a strategy and communication mechanisms with stakeholders, and that falls under social capital, right? Then there's natural capital. There are people who have got, or organizations that have got natural capital in the form of minerals, underground, limestone, the guys who are mining gold, limestone, those who are doing cement in Athi River, all of that, the land those guys have bought has got natural capital. All those capitals are fed into this business model, and our business model are basically the inputs and activities you undertake. So those business activities that entail the processes that lead to outputs. Outputs are like today's training. The output is that you will have learned about decision making. The outcome will be that your decision making will improve. Outcomes happen after outputs. You can develop a strategic plan. That document in soft or hard copy is just an output. Outcomes will be felt only after you implement the strategic plan. Now, the business model is built against a backdrop of your vision and mission, how your organization is governed. Governance are processes that ensure stakeholders see their value being maximized or expectations being met. As you govern, take into account the risks and opportunities you're dealing with within the SWOT analysis we addressed earlier, right? Think about the strategy you will use to implement your strategy so that governance happens at a personal level and at an institutional level. And then think about how your business model supports performance. Performance could be things like how you are able to generate income, profitability, cash flow. What are your long-term future prospects for growth and success? All of those things you need to take into account when you are making your decisions. And if you do this right, then it results in growth in the financial capital, manufactured capital, intellectual capital, human capital, social capital, and your natural capitals, which are reinvested back into your organization so that you become, over the long term, a sustainable institution. The policy question comes here. Do you have guidance that governs decision-making at a personal level and across your organization? If you have a challenge with this, capable experts will modernize, develop, review, update, or enhance your policy frameworks so that you can become a future-ready organization. We have an exercise for you here. You can undertake this. Write down 2 lessons you have learned in this presentation. What do you commit to implementing after this training? Thank you so much for listening, and I hand the program back to Simon.
Okay, thank you so much, FCPA Evans. I think that was very well illustrated. You have taken us through very critical issues, and you have given us ideas and key steps that we can take to ensure that we employ the integrated thinking approach, because in the long run, this will enable us focus on taking decisions that actually will ensure us that we are on the right direction or track as we head towards our success horizons. Now, at this moment, I would like to engage the floor. I understand that we have been keenly listening to our presenter, and now this is the chance for us to air our concerns. Maybe we might have questions with regards to our areas of expertise, maybe at the workplace or at home or in our personal businesses. So if you have a question that you believe goes well with whatever we have discussed today, kindly raise your hand. Then we'll have you ask it and have other members respond to that, and also our expert. So anyone? So as we still think about that, just another reminder, we have another scheduled webinar next week, and I have just posted it on the chat box. I think it's the firstmost text, and the link is there. So we'll be looking at public relations crisis management, and we'll be focusing on the golden rules and key components of crisis preparation and recovery. So if you have not yet registered for that, kindly click on the link and secure your chance to be part of us when that time comes. Now, I can't see anyone with a question, but I can see many delegates being satisfied and, of course, thanking Kappa-Bill and FCPA Evans for such a wonderful presentation. I can see Merindinda saying, this was a great presentation and a wake-up call as we go towards the end of the year. Developing personal strategic plan becomes paramount. Thank you, Evans. Dr. Peter Kitonyo says, wow, that was awesome, FCPA. As usual, you have delivered an excellent presentation. Rahab Watare says, I love the presentation, especially as we are coming to the end of the year and we have so much to reflect on. Thank you, Evan. So I think it's clear that this was a very timely topic and very crucial for all of us. Now, Peter Kyoko's hand is raised. You can share with us, CPA.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. And Evans, that was a very good presentation. It's my first time to attend such a presentation. Can you hear me? I'm loud.
Yes,
yes. Yeah, it's the first time I'm attending such a presentation where it's not a technical issue, it's not technical skills, but it's actually things that build us. My big question is actually, these things actually, they are very crucial to us as persons and also in our organizations. But if you look at the national level, we've had a situation where decisions are being made, then decisions reversed, and you find decisions are made and everybody seems to think they are wrong. So I'm wondering, is it that at the national level, would you think that these are things that should be married to the national discourse so that we can also, as we also reflect us, even at the national level, we can be able to be looking at the same paradigm in terms of decision making, that is integrated approach.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. I think that's a general question to all of us. I think it's good if the delegates respond, because the delegates is asking whether this approach to decision making, especially type 1 and type 2, can it be scaled to decision making at the national and country level. So let me invite the experts here. We have a lot of experts in the session, right? I've seen Dr. Kitonyo of the Central Bank of Kenya. There's Whitney Wafula of 88 in Upper Hill. They are putting up a futuristic, world-class residential properties in Upper Hill. I can see David Kihuna is here. We have a lot of people. There's Hortensia Kuria. So can we have even FCPA Kihuli, there's CPA Dedan. I would like to invite delegates to react to Peter. Peter is asking, should we be proposing this decision-making approach even for our country at the national level? Let's have volunteers. Whitney, would you like to go first? All right, Simon.
Okay, I can see Moses' audio is on. Moses, are you sharing with us something on the same?
Bernard Njiru.
Okay. We are encouraged to speak up. Maybe you can build on what we have shared already. So don't hold it back, please.
Simon, can I try to have a go?
Yes, FCPA Kivuli.
Yeah, I would say that on today's topic, the decision making is actually a description of a process of steps that should be taken. And I would say that in general, it should apply to decision making at any level, whether it's at personal level, at family level, at business level, or even at the national level. Because when we say national level, the top national level, like when we are doing the national budget, it's actually a build-up of departments of government or ministries of government or subsectors of government, which come together. And if this decision-making mechanism is followed at every stage, I have no doubt it will result into some improved results. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, FCPA Francis, for supporting that idea. Anyone else with something different? Yes, Dr. Peter Kitonyo. Daktari, you can speak.
Hello, you are able to hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you very much. And FCPA Evans, you have done a very good job. You know, I like the way I cannot pin the presentation to any source, but it is so insightful. It's such a good presentation. In my view, of course, decision-making should apply to individuals in families, you know, even organizations and at national level. The only thing I need to comment is that when it comes to matters national, there is something we call politics which works in. And politics is doing things with a lot of malice and a lot of selfishness to achieve perhaps objectives which may not be shared by everybody. You know, I'm looking at something you can be allowed to talk about this thing we call the BBI, for instance. And we call anybody heard that? Those who knew how to read and those who didn't know how to read. Now, this time we are talking very seriously about the BBI, for instance. Some people have never seen the copy. They will never see the copy. To get it, perhaps you need to print it somewhere. It's not everybody who has the money to do so. But now looking at all these things, and when you are talking of ideas and all that, you know, we can see that we are missing out big time on very important ideas. But there seems to be also a clique of people who are discussing on this very important national issue. And they feel that, you know, at some point we need to put a stop to accepting any more ideas. So basically what we are saying is that it is a good thing, yes, it can be applied in a national setup, but we may need to see how we need to take care of politics, which I'm not very sure whether we can be able to do that. So the easiest way, perhaps, we can have this put in is to have as many people, you know, informed about these processes as much as possible. For us, coming to this kind of a webinar is a very good thing, and I want to thank Capability for this. It's possible to get them. Evans continue presenting such a thing whenever there is a forum, so that people can understand, because when you go back, you can realize where you are getting it wrong. And then, of course, there are those who get it wrong because they don't know. There are those who get it wrong because they want to get it wrong to achieve a particular ulterior motive. And therefore, once we have a shared kind of a base of information to make the right decisions, it is very possible that we can be able to make better decisions. And I do know, of course, that there are people who are not well versed with it. So that they can be able to make better decisions. But we have a long, long way to go before we are able to achieve the best, you know, the best results out of making better decisions. But I'm happy, at least for those who have come to for this, that we can be able to make better decisions for ourselves. And of course, as we succeed as individuals, we will be able to succeed wherever we are, we work, and in whatever we are going to be involved in, including where we are in organizations. And that way, it will be an indirect contribution towards making better decisions for this country through organizations and through whatever capacities we are able to participate in. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. for just emphasizing on that. You have supported the idea of extending this to the national level, but you've also insisted that we should take care of the politics. Yeah? And you have also just narrowed down and solidifying your point by saying that it's important if we take these decision-making steps at individual level, because by doing that, I think we will achieve maximum impact going forward. So I don't know if there is anyone else with an additional point or question. I understand that this has been a very compelling session, and we would like to talk over this, but because of time constraints, I can see we have only 4 minutes, because our sessions are designed for 1 hour presentation and 30 minutes discussion. So by 1:30, we should have been through with this. So I will just give one person a chance. If you have any burning point, you can share now.
Simon, can I speak?
Yes, Whitney, you want to say something?
Oh yeah, hello everyone. I would like to comment on the question that had just been posed to me about decision making at a national level, although briefly, because all the people who have spoken have managed to give majority of the points I had on my mind. But one thing I'd like to say is that the biggest problem we have here in Kenya is poor management and poor decision making, because I feel it's a ripple effect. From having poor management, it ripples out to having very poor decision-making processes. And this definitely is really important to implement even at a national level, because I feel like most of the problems that we are going through right now as a country are because of the decisions that are being taken by the people in management or the leaders per se. So definitely, yes, this kind of decision-making processes should be implemented at a national level. They will save us a lot of heartache, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Whitney. That also just adds on the point shared by FCPA, Francis, and Dr. So at this point, I would like to bring the session to an end. And on behalf of Capabile, I would like to say that we are deeply grateful for you trusting in us. And since March, most of you have been in our webinars, never missed a single session. The likes of FCPA Francis, we really appreciate your presence all through. And we believe at this point you are well equipped, you are more knowledge than since the year started. And as we promised, we will continue keeping these webinars free, and they'll be here on a permanent term. So always check out our website, and always make sure that you are up to date with our schedules that we have prepared. And if you feel like you have a very burning issue or topic that you believe will be beneficial to the society, you can always share with us so that we can craft material and content on the same and get qualified speakers to ensure that they deliver so that you and others can benefit from that. So up to this point, we are deeply grateful, and I would like to end the session now. So I will simply pray, and then we will disperse and work on our personal schedules in the afternoon. So let's pray. Almighty Father, thank you so much for what you have done unto us all through this while. In a special way, we give you thanks because you have enabled us to stay afloat. And during this harsh pandemic, our friends, relatives, and families have been kept safe. For those who have lost their loved ones, I thank you because you have been able to comfort their families and members, and that we are hopeful that things will get better. And as we come together as professionals every day to learn, to improve our knowledge, and make the society a better place, may all power and support come from you. I pray this through Christ our Lord, living and trusting in you. Amen. So we will share certificates as usual, and keep on sharing with friends and other people about these value-packed sessions. Thank you so much.